I was 17 years old. I was married. And 10 months after I was married, I had a baby girl. She was very ill, and the doctor told me that if I ever had another child, I would die. 3 months later, I was pregnant again. And I was absolutely terrified. I couldn't have that baby, because if I did, and I died, who would take care of the little baby I had? And so I asked the young women where I worked if there was somebody who could help me do something. And they sent me to a woman, and she lived in a shack. And she put, I think it was a strip of slippery elm bark, and she inserted this up my uterus. And she said, now you go home, and that will swell up, and you will have pain, and you will probably have some temperature, but you will have a miscarriage. 2 days later, I was in such pain. And so I went back out to see this woman. And she said, I told you not to come back. And I said, I have nowhere else to go. And she just held me up to her chest for a minute, and she said, honey, did you think it was so easy to be a woman? A woman that's unhappily pregnant will risk her life to stop that particular pregnancy. And then later in her life, when conditions have changed, she will happily risk her life to have a child. This is the same woman.
Chris was a sociology major at a state university when she discovered she was pregnant. Like many women her age, she was not ready to have a child. Chris went to a clinic during a wave of protests.
I went down with her, and we waited in the waiting room for I don't know how long. And there's people outside marching around. And she had a really bad experience there.
Chris became pregnant again after her birth control failed. She did not want to go back to a clinic because her first experience had been so frightening. Chris had been studying natural medicine and decided to use herbs as an abortifacient. Soon afterwards, she began to cramp.
When the cramping got really bad, she thought she was aborting. And she had gone into convulsions in the bathtub. Then they'd found out that she'd had an ectopic pregnancy, and that the cramping that she was feeling was that she'd been hemorrhaging, because they said that there was dried blood in and around her, in her uterus, that's what killed her.
Lola Huth was the lead dancer of the José Limón Dance Company. She was married and the mother of a baby girl when she died from a self-induced abortion. Even though she was using an IUD for birth control, Lola became pregnant. A doctor told her that the IUD would probably cause the baby to be deformed, but that removing it might cause a miscarriage. Lola weighed the risks and decided to have the IUD removed.
She went back for the scheduled appointment, and he said, I'm sorry, I have consulted with colleagues, and I cannot do anything that could implicate me in an illegal act. Right now, the whole abortion issue is very, very hot, and I just can't implicate myself. And she said, well, then I'm inclined to believe I will do it myself. She punctured a vein and got air into her bloodstream. And I was saying to my mother, you know, we have to talk about this. It's important. We can't, when you're in conversation with people, you tell them that your daughter died giving herself an abortion. We have to all start telling these stories. You know, that it isn't just some anonymous person that nobody knows who's had an abortion, but people right next to us in our community, in our lives, and some of them don't survive.